Hi, this is Laura from Grain & Company. Today I'm going to go over the elements to your Valentine's tag kits. We have our gnome and we have the love letter part to it. So this is all new to some people on how we do our 3D accents to our kits. So I'm just going to go through that with you right now. So I'm going to start with the love letter one. So when you'll get it, you will have some tape on the front because we've taken it out of our machine that way. That way your pieces don't fall out. What works best now is to flip this over and apply some tape on the back so that your pieces won't fall out once we remove the tape from the front. So just enough to keep them from bouncing around. All right, so flip that over and then you can remove this tape. Now in the kit, in the example that I did all my hearts in one color, and then I did the bottom part, the envelope, in another. However, you can do that any way that you would like. I'll just show you how I have done mine. So with painting in a frame like this, your template, you don't want to go too heavy so the paint drips down into the grooves on the side, otherwise your pieces will get stuck. So you've been provided with foam wedges and you have your paint color. So what you're going to do is you're going to dip it in some paint. And that's quite a bit for what I need. So I'm going to dab off just a little bit. For the envelope, I can start with a little bit more than I would my hearts because I have a bigger surface area. So I can kind of start in the middle and push it either direction. Now you can easily paint these with a brush if you so choose. You just want to be careful of the edges that you don't paint those. So I'm just coming in here like this and kind of doing a dab and swipe or kind of motion. Whoops, see, it wants to come out. So that just came out. That's not a problem. I'm just going to pop it back. Actually, you know what? For this part, I'm just going to take that out like that. So now I can do the pink part to my hearts without getting it all over my white. I'm just going to grab some pink paint. I can get the bottle open. There we go. Okay, I'm just going to move that. All right, so same with your pink. So you're going to just take your paint from whatever container. Way too much. I'll bring this closer so you can see. You see that in the camera? Okay, so I'm just going to take that and I'm going to blot off most of it so it is almost dry, and then I'm going to sponge it on. Now it might be a little difficult to see this color on camera just because it is a very light color, but you're just going to gently apply your paint. Now you most likely will need to do 2 coats. Depending on your color and what you're looking to achieve. Just keep dipping in your paint and blotting off. Okay. Now I know if I check these, I can still get a little wiggle out of them, so that's what you want. You want to make sure that they aren't set in there, and even once it's dry here in a few minutes, you want to check it again as well. Okay, so that can just go off to the side. This, because it's a very light coat of paint, is already dry. You're going to want to sand it. I can feel some texture. The wood has swollen, so it's fairly rough. So I'm going to take my 400 grit sandpaper and I'm just going to go sand in the direction of the grain and make that buttery smooth. So if I feel that, that is nice and smooth. Take a paper towel and just wipe that clean. Now I'm going to show you painting it with a brush if you so choose to do it that way instead of your foam wedge. So I'm just going to grab a brush Now, it doesn't have to be anything fancy. However, you don't want to use a little tiny brush like this. Something bigger like this, about a 1 inch, would be more beneficial, just so you don't have a whole bunch of little paint lines just from a smaller brush. So if I'm going to paint it with the brush, I'm going to put some paint on my brush, not super lots, but I'm going to start in the middle and not at the edge. And I'm going to get as close as I can and be very careful. As I approach that edge, you want to kind of lift that brush so that way the paint doesn't go over the edge and create a big drip. You will get better coverage off the bat with a brush, but it's whatever you're comfortable with in terms of keeping those edges clean. It doesn't take a whole lot of paint to do this. Now, if you do get a little bit of paint on the edge, which, you know, even I can do sometimes, you can always sand it. You can always get what's called paint pens. You can get them from Michael's. They're brown or black, and you can always color the edge after to hide any paint that you may have put on the edge as well. You can sand it off and then it'll clean it up. So this one's got a little bit of paint. It's not the end of the world to me, but I would just, once it's dry, I'm just going to come in here and sand that off a little bit. Might even distress the edges a little bit, and I'm okay with that. But if you're not, like I said, you can just take those paint pens or even a little bit of brown or black paint, and you can clean that up. All right, back to the pink. So this is dry, and I know that paint always goes on a lot nicer once it's been sanded, so I'm going to take my sandpaper again and just gently go across those pieces. That's nice and smooth. I can get my pieces out of there. Yeah, we're good to go. So I'm going to take my foam wedge, dip it in some paint, blot some off so it's almost dry, and then go back over and sponge. Whoops. Sponge those. All right, stick it back in there. There we go. The only thing about when you're sponging, you just want to be careful that you're not leaving, like, you know, kind of lines from your sponge edge, but oh, the sponge just does not want to stand. There we go. Okay, so those ones are done, and I'm feeling 2 coats will be more than enough. So I'm going to set that one off to the side, and I'm going to check this one. So that one is still a little wet. So while that one is going on, I will go over the gnome with you. Okay, so your gnome has several pieces, but you don't need to paint all of them. Now, on the back of these pieces, as well as the back of your heart pieces in your envelope, there is a 3M adhesive. So when we're putting this together, you will just be peeling your adhesive off and sticking the pieces together. So that's how you will assemble. All right, so with the gnome, the base is more for layering your pieces so you can get that dimension, but you do need to paint some of it to get started. So based on my color choices, my gnome body is done in Algonquin. So I'm just gonna grab my color here. Paint containers are just whatever's around here at the moment. All right, so for this one, I'm not going to use my sponge. I'm actually going to use a paintbrush. I do not have to be super careful except for the edges, because everything else, if I'm a messy painter, is all going to get covered up. So don't worry about where those score lines are. That is just for assembly purposes. So I'm going to take my brush and I'm just going to start to paint. So I'm just going to start in the middle and pull it out. So everything to do with the body, which is just this part here, is going to get painted. Like I said, I'm not painting in the lines today because I don't have to worry about that too much, and you'll see here shortly why. Okay, so that one's just going to take a couple minutes to dry, so we'll set that there. Now we also need to do the arms of that. So I'm just going to keep going with a brush just so you can see me do these little pieces. Now you want to be very, very careful. But I'm just going to come in here. Very, very, very little paint. And these colors cover very well, so it's not like I need a ton in the first place. That's number one. You can definitely do these with the foam wedges as well. But I had the brush out for that color, so there's no point having to start a new one. All right, so the next part, oops, there's one other little piece. That is in the brown, and that is this one. So this one might be a little challenging, but finger on here. Should be able to do it. Go. Spin it around. I mean, the pieces like this, I mean, if you got a little paint on the side, it wouldn't matter because this one's going to fit inside the hat, so you wouldn't see those edges anyways. Okay, so the next part of the gnome I have done, we're gonna do the red. So the same thing I did with the body, I can do with the heart. Let me grab my red here. Oh, maybe I might have to get a container. All right, I'm gonna be right back. Okay, there, just did that way. Okay, so again, another little brush. Now, I'm not spending any fancy money on these. These are just stuff from the dollar store. You're looking for brushes that are flat and small like this in different various sizes, which make it really easy to paint this little tiny stuff. From our tiered tray sets to these ones, 3D or regular. So once again, a little paint. Now, here you'll see the arms and the mitt and the hands. These will be covered up once again with the 3D version of it. So all I am is painting the heart. So I'm just going to be not very clean about this. Just watch your edges. As long as you paint everything that would be the heart part. Yeah, get in here. Just like that. Okay, we're gonna let that one dry. And we'll come back and do the next coat here shortly. Okay, so those ones are done. We need another red, would be the hat. Well, I'm at it with the brush already. I'm just gonna continue. So, if you always start in the middle with your paint and push towards the outside, you'll always have better control. Try not to get paint on the edge. Your paintbrush always holds more paint than you realize. And always paint in the direction of the grain. So you can see I'm like laying my paint. I might have to turn my brush the other way, but if I follow through back in the direction of the grain to smooth out those lines, you'll find that your painting will look a lot more natural. Now this red will probably take me 3 coats, just because red is a color with a clear base, and it always takes more coats to get a solid coverage than it does, say, something with a white base. All right, so that one is good for a first coat. So we're gonna leave that off to the side there. All right, what's his next? We can do the white beard. Since I'm doing white already with the envelope, I'm going to just continue on with my sponge. I'm just gonna put some on, start in the middle, and just push. Just always watch your fingers if you get some paint on as you're grabbing your pieces. All right, that is fine for coat one. All right, that one's done. Next, we've got our body, our nose and our hands. So with these, I've been using Cathedral Taupe. It's a light enough neutral skin color for the skin color I want on my gnome. However, you can easily change that to suit what you would like it to be. Let's see if I can get this one open. Okay, good. All right, so for this one, I'm not gonna grab a new brush. Now with your paint wedges, if I was done with this one, I may cut it down where the paint dries. You can always cut them in half and use them into little tiny pieces. So I'm just gonna use a very little paint. I'm gonna blot off most of it. And I'm just gonna kind of pinch it so I create a smaller defined edge. And I'm just gonna come in this way. Or you can use a little brush, whatever you are comfortable with. Now this would be a lot easier if I actually tape these in place. Now I have parchment paper on here, so they won't tape very well. So I'm just gonna fold this up. How far can you see? All right, from here, see that green tape of mine? Let's see. Back here. All right, I'll shift that back. So as long as you had some part on your table where your tape will stick, I'm going to attach these little pieces to the tape. So now when I go to paint them, and since they're really small and I can't hold them, they won't get paint all over my fingers, and I can bounce that sponge on there and they're not going to move. So that's a little tip there for those smaller pieces. All right, so that's that coat. Hope you can see that actually. I'm not even sure you can see that on the camera. Oh, no, you know what? You can't see that on the camera. So let's bring that back over here. I'm gonna see if I can get it to stick there. So what I did is I folded a piece of tape in half and I stuck it to a surface that the tape will stick to. On the parchment paper, it does not do very well, but I will just hold it here so you can kind of see what I was doing. So I took my sponge, a little bit of paint, dabbed it off, and then I could paint it that way without those little pieces bouncing all over the place. But the tape doesn't stick very well to the parchment paper, so paper tablecloth will work really good there. So, all right, my last little piece are the black, and get that color. Now, oops, actually, I have one little piece here that I forgot. This is the white to the pom-pom. I'm just gonna see if I can go in there. There we go. Okay, that one's off to the side. And I'm just gonna use a little tiny brush. I'm just gonna paint these. All right. That's always nice because you can never really tell if you get any paint on the sides. Now don't worry about those score marks on there. They're just more for decorative lines, but they hold no purpose in our painting. Okay, there you go, first coat. Okay, so back to this guy. He is all dry. Take your sandpaper and sand in the direction of the grain. Now he is nice and smooth, and I'm just gonna go at it again and paint him one more time. If you like it after one coat, you are more than welcome to keep him. That way you just finish it in the finish that you like, and this is really just to show you after how to assemble. Okay, so he is done there. Whoops, a couple more pieces here. So these little pieces are kind of hard to sand that way, so I tend to hold the sandpaper, take my little pieces, and just move it across the sandpaper that way. Now they're very small and they tend to distress a lot easier than the bigger pieces. So it doesn't take much to wear the paint away. If the paint sat a little longer, like 24 hours, it would adhere a little bit better, but these have only been painted like 5 minutes, so you tend to want to sand away a little bit easier. So since I painted 2 on the other one, I'm just going to do one more quick coat. I like the distress edge, but I will come back and give it another sand after and wear those pieces away. Okay, that's one. Okay, that's done. Whoops. Okay. This too would be good for the tape method, but that's done there. Okay, so that one is done. Next one we could do is our red. All right, so you can see it dry. You can still see some of the wood tone underneath because it's way lighter, and that's what red does. So we're gonna just sand this. So that is buttery smooth. And then once again, we're gonna take our red. There we go. And come in here and paint this. Now for demonstration purposes, whoops, there's a lot of paint on this brush. So I'm just gonna come in here and take some of that off of there. I'm only gonna do 2. Now I realized as I touched that red to the hat, I didn't sand it. So it's not the end of the world. It just paints better when it's sanded smooth, but I will come back later and do a sanding on there. See, on the first coat I can be a little bit more vigorous on my sanding and wear away that paint. The second coat, I might have to just come back and touch up a little bit after, but okay, so because of the hole in the hat, you just want to make sure you don't load that with paint. I just got a little drip there, so I'm just going to get rid of that. Because you want that little piece to be able to fit inside that hat. Okay, that one is done as well. There we go. Okay, so red's done. Next piece we will do is the white. So once again, you want to give that a sand. Nice and buttery smooth. Take your paper towel, you can give that a wipe. And this time I'm going to do it, just paint it with the brush here. Come in here. You know what? I'm going to go back to my little wedge. This one's used too many weird edges on this one, so this one works better. All right, that's good. Yep, okay. And then we've got the little piece, little pom-pom to the hat. Give that a little sand. And you can do that with the tape method, but I'm just gonna come in here, tap a little bit on there. That one is done. Red is done. White is done. Okay, so we will do, I can do the little hands in that. Where's my sandpaper? These off. There. Okay, and my little piece again. So I can get my tape to stick on here. There we go. Okay, just a little bit. Edges. Okay, that one's done too. So I think all we have left is our black. Okay, so we'll put those there. Grab our sandpaper. Now, as you can see, that black is wear down quite a bit. The paint, is still fresh. So if you don't want them to dull so much after the second coat, then once you've sanded and painted again, then I would just leave them. Because what it'll do is it will dull that black and take away that real strong black color. But it won't be as rough as it was if you hadn't sanded. So it'll be fine to just leave it as is. So those are good there. And yeah, so those are done. So we're just gonna give that a moment to dry, and then I'm going to show you how to put that together. So while my hands are still clean, I'm gonna come back to this, and I'm gonna give this a sand again. Now with this is where you're going to go back to your DIY stenciling instructions, and you're going to do this part just like you would have done on the tag part. You would have stained that or painted, whatever you choose to do. Do your stenciling, take the stenciling instructions to do that little dash line around the edge. Same thing. So when you're done painting this, because there's adhesive on the back, you don't want to take that off yet. Once you peel your backing off and reveal your stencil, you're going to line it up on here. So this is very close to the edge, this piece. So you want to be very careful when you're peeling your backing off that you don't stretch it, like grab a hold of it and stretch it. So this piece is cut exactly the same size as this piece. So you will just find an edge on your black and line it up really, really well. Oops. So don't try and make full contact when you're doing a stencil. It's always best to line it up on an edge, because if you need to pull it off, you only have to worry about the edge. So got it into place. Give that a really good rub. Now, this is for demonstration purposes. I would give your background a good few hours to dry. This is a white background, so those colors tend to dry faster. Things like your reds, your blacks, your dark, highly pigmented colors, I wouldn't stencil on there for at least a good 12 hours. The longer you can let that dry, the better results you'll have in your stenciling. So you can always paint your bases one day, come back and stencil the next. But once you get your vinyl on your background, you need to get that stenciling process done within an hour. You don't want to leave it on there all day. Okay, so when I'm done, I got that on there. I gave it a good rub so that it's grabbed onto the background, and now I'm just rolling this piece back. Now you want to be very careful. Like I said, there's a very thin piece of black vinyl on here, and you don't want to stretch it because it can create, you stretch it too big that it kind of creates little bubbles underneath there. So go slow and just roll it off instead of just yanking it off. Then you'll have better control. So once you're done, just follow the instructions. You're going to want to take your decoupage medium and you're going to seal all of these edges. So you're going to dab it on and then wipe and then smooth it over, so that way it'll seal those edges. Once that's dry, then you can go ahead and paint your color. The sample color is Algonquin. However, you can do whatever color that you would like. Do a couple coats and then you'll just peel off your vinyl once it's dry to do, to peel it off once it's dry, and then you'll be able to start assembling that sign. For this video, I'm not going through the stenciling instructions. We do have a video that shows you how to do that, so you can follow along for that one. So in the meantime, I'm going to go over how to put this part together. Just a really quick visual. So you'll have your tag. Let's give this a move here. You will have your tag and you will have your template. And you should have had painted all of your pieces by then. If these need a sand, go ahead, give them a sand. Now on the back of all of this, there is a 3M adhesive. Now we do not want to take off the adhesive backing on our template. Our template is a guide to help you line up your pieces so they're in exactly the same place as the design. If you were to try and sit there and line them up, you would, there is the good chance that you will not get it the same as this. So this piece here, you will take all those pieces out and you will line it up at the bottom edge. Let's see if I can get that. So you're going to line it up at the bottom edge of your tag and then center it between the two sides. Now with your first piece, you want to watch that it doesn't move. So if this was done, I would peel the back off, hold this piece down and drop it into place and stick it in place. Okay, and then I'll know it's good to go. So I'm not going to actually peel these off because this is not finished, but you will take each one, you will peel off the covering, and you'll notice that there is a sticky adhesive on the back of these pieces of wood. So you will take that then and you will place it in the spot where it's supposed to go. There is one heart that does not need to get stuck in its template. This was just cut here so that it's ready for your envelope. This piece here, this heart, is the heart that goes on the center of your envelope. So don't stick it to this spot. You want to leave it when your envelope is dry and you've taken off your vinyl stencil. You will peel this one off and stick it in the center of your envelope. So that's how that is done and why we cut them in these for you guys, so it's easy for you to line up and not have to worry. And then you'll just sit there, take all the adhesive off and line these up. So just, some of them look kind of the same, but just as you're doing it, just kind of make sure that it fits before you take that backing off so that you know. And then they'll all line up. And then when you're done and they're all in their spot, of course this isn't gonna work because they're not stuck down, but when you peel that off, then they'll all be lined up where they're supposed to be. Okay, and then this is just garbage. You won't need to keep it anymore. All right, so that's how that works for the tag of the love letter tag. All right, next is the gnome. So this is now dry, so I'm going to give that a sand. And he is nice and smooth. Okay, and next is my heart, this, and got the beard. So I'm just gonna make sure all my pieces are ready to go. Now my red, I didn't sand before, so I'm gonna have to give it a nice sand. Now, just like the black, it's gonna dull and you're gonna lose a little bit of that vibrancy color in this particular one. But I'm okay with that. I like it a little distressed, so I'm gonna wear down those edges. He's a rustic gnome to me. Let's give these a quick little sand. Same with this. And he is super fast to put together once you get all these pieces done. And you can see that it didn't take that long to paint him either. Okay. This one. And then we'll just do these ones really quick. There. That one. And that one. Okay, so let's move all this stuff. Okay, so you'll start with your base. For this purposes, this base does not have an adhesive back. However, yours will have an adhesive back, so that way after you can peel it off and attach it to your tag sign as well. But mine does not at the moment. So first of all, I'm gonna start with my hat at the top. So you can see these lines match up exactly to the same size as your gnome. So once again, 3M adhesive, so you don't have to use glue. Just gently peel it off. Now careful, because sometimes it wants to grab a hold of that adhesive. All right, this is very strong adhesive, so just be very careful when you go to line it up that you are very happy with its positioning, because once it's down, it's very difficult to get it back up. Make sure all those edges are the same, and once you are good to go, you can give it a press. All right, so the next piece, you could either do your beard or the nose. I find the nose fits better one way than the other. So it's pretty tight this time. Let me see, whoops. It's being fussy. Okay, so I'm just gonna actually put my nose in first. Not pressing too hard on it yet. And I'm gonna peel the back off of this one. There you go. So any gnomes that we offer on any other kits will be exactly the same way. They just may have a different set of hands holding a different object, but your process will still be the same. Okay, so I'm just gonna fit that in there. I got a bit of a shadow I want. This piece might have been put in up, so let's do this first. All right, he is good. So I'm gonna give that one a press. Now I'm gonna fiddle with this nose. They usually fit better than that, but he's being a little difficult. Hold on. There we go. That's in there now. Okay, so as you can see, as we're starting to layer this, that all of my messy painting underneath is, it doesn't matter. There's something on here. So that's good. All right, so the next part, I'm just gonna put in this little piece for the hat. Stick it in there. And I'm gonna do the same with my pom-pom. And stick that down there. All right, the hands. So you have adhesive all the way across. Some of it will stick to your gnome and some will just be underneath that. It really won't matter if it's not stuck to anything. Now sometimes if you find if you're peeling your backing off, the adhesive wants to come off, just give that a push down, give it another rub, and push it back on the wood. Okay, so these elbows here on the gnome are the roundness to his arms here. So we're just going to line those up and give that A little push. Okay, so for placement, the easiest thing is to match the score lines so you can see that they're in the same direction. Will fit the best. So peel that off. See, once again, it will not matter. Oh, yes, it will, because I forgot to paint the bottom of my red heart. Look at that. See, even I can mess up. All right, where's my brush? Because I wasn't paying attention. All right, not a biggie. I'm just going to come in here really quickly and paint this. You guys probably noticed that a while ago that I didn't get that right. All right, well, let's give that a moment to dry. Same here with your feet. You'll see that there's score lines on the feet part, so I'm just going to match those up. They pretty much look identical, but you'll notice that one set is just a little different than the other. All right, so push those down and push those down. Oops. Just kind of lining up. Okay, now I'm just going to end up weeding here, so I can still do this piece. I'm pretty careful. So this one will go here. All right, once I'm done painting the bottom of my heart that you probably all were noticing as I was going along, these two pieces will fit right there, covering that part up, and it will be all done. So just like that. So when you're done your tag, just like you did with the love letter one, you'll stain your background if that's what you choose to do, or paint it. Do your vinyl stencil with the dash lines around the edge and the words at the bottom, and then remove that. And then when you're good to go, you can peel the adhesive off the back of your gnome and set into place. Attach your string on your tag, and then you'll be all done. All right, so I hope that helps you guys do your 3D projects. And if you ever have any questions, please feel free to reach out at us. I'm here to make sure that your project is a success. All right, thanks guys.